We are a convention for fans from all backgrounds, any fans of science fiction, fantasy, horror, gaming, art, and generally just anything geeky at all. That's been one of the fun parts, is expanding outside of like traditional fandom, and because we realize that like people have different kind of stuff they nerd out about, right? It could be history or science or fountain pens, whatever it is. The common thread is that there's a strong interest in something that you want to share with people. So that's the point of conventions in my book, but also Multiverse in particular, is let everybody get together in an environment where everybody feels welcomed and included, like genuinely included. And it happens every October, third weekend of every October. This year it's October 20th through 22nd in Atlanta, which I figure most people know. At the West in Atlanta, Perimeter North, all the stuff's at multiversecon.org.
For this episode, we welcome Amy Anderchek, aka the Kitchen Witch. She has one of the most important jobs at Multiverse. She keeps those of us on a budget fed at the con suite. She's also a published author of many journals, memoirs, and cookbooks, and we'll talk to her about all that tonight. Then we welcome in Madeline Dale, aka the Chapter Goddess. Madeline is a steamy romance and fantasy author who also does a lot of hosting. Hey, right here on Go Indie Now. She hosts with us This Week in Indies and her show Character Driven, plus her own show on her YouTube channel. Then, in honor of our guests, we're going to talk about the con suite again. So get ready for another spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Yes, hello everybody. We are live. Another spotlight on Multiverse. And look, I got the Kitchen Witch, everybody. Look at this. Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
Amy, I gave a little bit of an intro there, but fill us in a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Well, about myself, I have been writing cookbooks and, creating magic in the kitchen for a very long time. And I kind of found my way into the Multiverse community I got to know Allie, one of the co-chairpersons, and who is amazing. And when we first met, it was at a homeschool co-op meeting, and we were talking about just being a fabulous, like, absolutely big-hearted geek. Like, that was just like where we bonded. And she was like, oh, we've got our first convention coming up, and told me all about it. And I was so excited. Like, I was automatically just sign me up. Like, it doesn't matter. And I thought about it a few days later, and I was like, I've been doing con suites and stuff since I was a kid. I mean, I remember when Dragon Con was in a comic book store.
Nice.
Like, that's how old I am, but also like what a legacy geek I am, right? Yeah. So I was like, I sent her an email and was like, I don't really want to intrude, but if your con director wants a couple tips, I have some amazing secrets to, how to work within a budget and how to make it more accessible to people. Like, I'd be so happy to help. And Allie was like, ooh, look, we just found our con suite director. And that was it. And honestly, it's been one of, the most just joyful volunteer experiences of my life. Like, I found my family. That's and awesome. Like, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It is absolutely. I've been to several cons myself, and been to con suites. It is one of the most well-run con suites I've ever seen. It is very efficient. It is very there's a lot of great variety. You cater to a lot of different needs. I think it's just amazing stuff that you do and the work that you do. And we'll talk a lot more about it. But I wanted to bring in all the comments in here because they're going crazy. They love you, Amy. So. And Madeline's here, and she says, and Vanessa's here, and she says, a witch and a goddess. We're lucky to have you all.
Vanessa is just a big part of my heart. I love you.
She says, oh my God, you look so amazing. And Madeline says, gorgeous as always. You know.
Well, thank you. I should do this more often. I feel like I'm going to end up with like all the serotonin when I'm done. I'm going to be like good for days.
Vanessa says, and Multiverse has legit the best con suite I've ever experienced. So, give us a little insight on give us a little insight on what it is like putting something like this together. Where do you start? How do you get it to the point where it's at? I mean, now I'm sure there's a little bit more of an automatic, switch to it because you've done it now a few times. But give us an idea of how much goes into the pre-planning, what you do, how you determine what you're going to do, and all of that.
Well, it started out with Allie came over to my house after I accidentally volunteered to be the director of the con suite. And we were talking, and I just asked Allie to describe like what their dreams for the con were, right? Because this was before anyone had been there. It hadn't happened yet. And the entire goal of Multiverse is inclusivity, right? Like everyone belongs. And when we were talking, I was like, you know what I think is that I think the con suite has to be inclusive as everything else. Like, let's make it so that anyone can participate and be part of it and enjoy it. And so all of our meals are either gluten-free and vegan completely across the board, or we have the regular fare and then a gluten-free vegan option. And then last year we actually, we have a Multiverse Convention group on Facebook, and I asked people what they might want. And I had about 12 different people mention that they had nightshade allergies. And so I was like, okay, that's peppers and tomatoes and potatoes and like a whole group of food that makes it almost impossible for people to eat outside of what they're used to. And so I was like, how cool would it be to include, do you want the nightshade free salsa with our tamales, And like my goal is just to make it super inclusive. Like I personally my life is just one big crowded table, right? Like everyone knows, come to my house, I will feed you. There's always an extra potato in the pot for you. So I wanted the convention space, as long as I was being the director, I wanted it just to be an extension of my kitchen. And so a lot of the things that I planned as far as pre-planning were things that I could do ahead of time. We've done chilies, we've done curries. I've become famous for my tamales. Literally complete strangers have been like, what's the story on this year's tamales, right? So, and I have a little glimpse into this year's lineup if anyone is interested.
Yeah, definitely.
This year, I actually am making huitlacoche tamales, which huitlacoche is actually it's a mushroom that grows inside of corn husks, and it just has this wonderful earthy flavor. It is so quintessential, like such a real unique Mexican flavor. And, I think that a lot of Americans aren't familiar with. So I do like to try and bring in something new and unique every year because, why not? Right? It's an opportunity for someone to experiment maybe a little bit without spending any money on it or whatever. There's very little risk and all of this reward. And so I try and do things that people aren't used to, because that's kind of how I cook in my kitchen. Like the food is coming from one continent or another, and until it's on the table, you probably don't know which one. So we try and make the con suite the same. Just it's an extension of my kitchen.
You're getting love all the way from Puerto Rico. That's my friend Liz, and her bookstore Taza y Portates, and she says she loves your look,
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure you just made her mouth water too, because I that's where I had it in Puerto Rico. I had I had a little bit of that in Puerto Rico, so it was really I tried that and mofongo for the first time in my life.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Ooh. I have to put that one back in the back of my brain and think about that.
It's very easy to trip and fall into the volunteer role. It's true.
It's so true, and honestly, it was one of the best trips I've ever taken.
Yeah, tamales. There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
And yep. See, Liz gave you some love there. So, you know,
Yeah.
so you designed basically a 3 meal structure for the con suite in certain
Yes.
respects for each day that is the con goes on, and then
Yeah.
you have snacks in between that and certain little things that people can pick up if they just on the go and running around.
Yep.
So tell everybody, what do you feel like is the best approach to where do you feel like people should is the best time to try what you're experimenting with? Do you think dinner time is a better time than breakfast? Because breakfast is probably pretty standard, I would imagine.
Yeah. So the way we set it up is we have dinner on Friday night, which is always tamales. Like if I don't put out tamales on Friday night, I know at least a couple dozen people who will be very upset with me. So Friday night is always tamale night because it's our favorite way to kick off the con. And then on Saturday, we'll have sort of a continental breakfast. It's, not, we usually will do your standard continental breakfast, but then I'll also bake like vegan and gluten-free specials and stuff like that because, your typical muffins and granola bars don't work for everyone. So breakfast on Saturday is super simple. And then we have like lunch and dinner on Saturday. And both of those, what I love about Multiverse is they really built into the scheduling the ability for people to take care of their own needs, right? When you're at some of these big conventions, like there isn't really a break. There's not really a lunchtime break. There's not really a dinner time break. And so people will just go, from the second they wake up till the second they go to bed and then get back to their hotel room and just be, hangry. And they have done such a wonderful job with scheduling that everyone has the ability because we, have sort of opened the official lunch and dinner time wide enough. So anytime during the break or a little before the break or a little after the break, you can make it. So typically those, I would say Saturday, lunch and dinner time are, really broad open. But like, if you're at Multiverse on Friday night, you better come get a tamale. Like, I'm sorry. And then we do brunch on Sunday mornings because, let's face it, brunch is the best meal of the week, right? So we do brunch on Sunday mornings. And like last year we did scrambles. So we had like a tofu scramble or an egg scramble. And then we had like grits that were extra super goopy and delicious because I am both a kitchen witch and
I have the grits if you're in the South.
Right, and both a kitchen witch and an old Southern lady, so we have to have grits as well. But like brunch, I think is really fun because everybody kind of sort of wakes up when they're ready. Like there are always those people who are up at 8 a.m. coming to get a cup of coffee and a granola bar, and they'll be back in a couple hours for brunch. And then there are the people who sleep in on Sundays and come, enjoy themselves. And I think the special thing about what we do is it's not just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and chili, like God bless, like you can make some fantastic crock pot meals and that's amazing. But, we're just trying to nourish people where they are, as genuinely as we can. And the way that I do that is through food. And, the way that other of our directors, thank you, Liam, the way that other of our directors are nourishing people is by creating, spaces and, making it just a warm, safe place. And my husband's on the security team. Like, every one of us who are directors and really involved at almost any level, are there to make it the best weekend of the year, right? My kids are already like, when is Multiverse? When is Multiverse? When is Multiverse? And my husband and I have 8 kids, so I hear it all the time.
When are you thinking about it? When are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it literally after Sunday night? Are you thinking about
no, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about next year while it's happening, because people will come through. Like, one of the things we did curry night this last year, and people were ecstatic about curry night. We did a German night the year before that people were just, crazy about. And so when people come through, I will ask them, like, what would you like to see next year? Right. And so for the upcoming year, kind of, we had several people suggest, like, maybe something African or West African. And so I'm working on finding other people who would like to either sponsor a meal or work with me, because, like, I think it would be great to find Jesse. I think it would be great to find, like, some people to share this experience with from their own perspective, right? Like, if I can get an African chef in to, like, help make some fantastic West African stew, like, why wouldn't I do that, right? Because it's once again that community building, right? Like, nachas is the Yiddish word. I can only think of the Yiddish word all of a sudden.
It's a chain of hugs. Everybody.
Yes, it is a chain of hugs. But yes, like, just that incredible, intense, like, community building that we do. That's what we do at Multiverse. And anyone who's not on that train really, like, isn't our people. And so we just keep building our group, our family. And, the way I do that is through food. And so, like, literally during the convention, I'm asking people, what do you think? What do you want to see next year? I have never gone through one of the conventions where someone hasn't said, like, I never can eat at a convention. Like, the very first day at the very first convention of Multiverse, Friday night, we were having tamales. That was where the tamale night started. And this young woman came in with, like, tears in her eyes. And she was like, I've never been able to eat anything at a convention that I didn't pack in my suitcase. Like, because she had her own, food sensitivities that she had to be careful of. And she did. I always have lists of ingredients. So if someone's not sure, like, I can share with them. And she was so just like, my whole heart just, like, grew 3 sizes that day. It was like the Grinch. And she has volunteered every year since then in the Consuite. And it's a great story, thing, right? It's so great that she's kind of become one of the joys of Consuite to me, is, someone who saw the vision and was willing to put their hands to the till. And, like, that's just amazing.
Yeah. Liam mentions that, as a celiac, she is part of my Multiverse survival plan. So,
oh, thank you.
And Vanessa wanted to give us a tip and say that you better come early for the tamales, because if you come late, you may not get any.
To be honest, like, it's so hard because Friday night, not everyone is there, right? So I think of how many tamales I'm going to need, and I make like 100 more than I'm going to need, right? Because you never know. Like,
you never know.
And then last year, we just got, I think, the tamale gospel has been preached, and, people are there for the tamales. And
I didn't do it last year because I was in late panels, but the first year I went, I got a tamale from you. And it was really, it's amazing. It's amazing.
perfect. Thank you. So so I think this year I'm gonna have to increase that, be like, okay, I'm just gonna make twice as many as I think I'm gonna need. But this year I've upped my game a little bit. I have an extra standing freezer that is literally just multiverse. So like I said, it's an extension of my kitchen. One of the great things is that I can, cook ahead, freeze it. And that's how I organize all of my meals, is like what will be delicious if I cook it and freeze it. And, and that was why I came up with tamales, because they steam so beautifully and you can reheat them. And, so it was something I didn't have to try and make 400 tamales the day of.
Yeah, right.
And everyone who loves me has been at my house making tamales. Like, it has happened. And if it hasn't happened yet, call me. You guys know. Come on over, make some tamales. I usually put people to work and then send them home with a little bag that they can enjoy at home. But awesome. I'm not afraid to put the community into work.
Well, yeah, we're family, so that's what family does, right? So
absolutely.
And Vanessa says last year they ran out of salsa and she was so upset. So
okay, I'll make extra salsa too.
She said if you ever want to do Dutch food, let her know. Her hubby has great recipes.
Oh, I'm in. I'm totally in.
Jesse says the best way to bring people together for the last many thousands of years is food. Amy gets this on a deep level, and we love that. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, you gave us a little bit of a preview. West African is on the menu this year.
Right.
So
and now Dutch. Now we've got Dutch. Look at that. I got two. And tamales.
People are getting excited in the chat.
They're almost done.
Yeah. So, so we've gone over it. I mean, you're a master at what you do. And you know what? I want the magician to keep a little bit of the bag of tricks in her bag of tricks. So we're not going to.
I don't do that at all. I'm an open book. I share everything. So you can ask anything. I have no secrets, and the only secrets I have keep themselves. So go ahead.
But your ambition is you're doing a lot of publishing cookbooks and putting stuff out there. Yes. Talk a little bit about when that started for you. Was that always a dream of yours? Was that something you've always wanted to do? Or was that something that was born out of this experience?
Well, actually, my first couple cookbooks that I published were before Multiverse. And, okay. I grew up very poor. I grew up in the projects in Dorville, which is a small suburb of Atlanta. And, there aren't really a lot of projects in great parts of town, but it was not a great part of town in the 80s. And, food was one of those commonalities that we all had. I remember one of my best friends, his name was Michael, and his grandmother buried a pot of kimchi in the backyard of their, they were like townhouses, right? So we had these little yards. And so when Michael's grandmother was going to dig up the kimchi, she was a little old Korean lady. And so he had to bring all of his friends over and gave us all shovels, and we had to dig a hole and find the kimchi jar, because grandma didn't always remember where it was.
That's awesome.
And, and then would share with the whole community, right? It was because we had so little. I think that what we could share was so much more meaningful. And to this day, kimchi has super big place in my heart. I have a giant pot of kimchi in my fridge that lives there all the time. I throw extra food in there every once in a while to let it go. And, I have the eternal kimchi pot. But I think that that's where it comes from originally, was just that the simplest, easiest way to show someone that you care is to nourish them. And, I think that I've always loved just cooking and all of those things. And I had one grandmother who was an amazing cook. And, they were also poor, and she only went grocery shopping once a month. So everything was canned or dried or packaged or something. But she would trade with people. Like, she had a friend who would grow tomatoes and would just bring her bushels of tomatoes, and she would can them and give most of them back, but keep some, So it was like, it was beneficial to everyone. And so, I do all of that. I do canning, I do preserving, I make jams. My kids have been bringing me like a handful of blackberries every day as they get like ripe in the backyard. So we've been keeping them, and we made like a blackberry gardenia jam. So, I'm kind of carrying it on with my own kids so that they can also see like, the blackberries and the gardenias are free. They're out there, right? So we do a lot of just cooking as love in my house. And that's kind of what I have to bring to the table, as well as with books and stuff. The book that I wrote right after the first Multiverse was, we had, the apocalypse hit. And it was not the apocalypse I had planned for. Right. But what happened was, I was seeing on Facebook all of these people who were struggling financially, and I didn't have money to give anybody. Like, that's not the life I lead. My husband and I have 8 kids. Like, I just can't. But what I could do was, I just turned the casserole into an act of love. Like, nice. I was making 7 casseroles per family that would feed, a whole family dinner, and freezing them and putting them in those banker boxes, little folding banker boxes. And every week, making a delivery to 18, 20, sometimes more families who just needed something to keep them going through the week. And a lot of the people that I were helping couldn't get to a food bank because they couldn't drive, or they didn't have a car anymore. Or, I had a lot of people who just had food sensitivities that they couldn't find the food they needed. And so I wrote a book with all of the food from the first Multiverse, created a cookbook with all of those recipes, and then all of the proceeds for that went to feed families in need.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So let me ask you this. As someone who cooks with love, and Vanessa says it, I love the cooking as love concept. What is one thing you haven't cooked yet that you really want to ambitiously try and cook?
Holy cow, that's the best question anyone has ever asked me. Wow. So what first comes to mind is I really am intrigued by like sort of remote locations, so like areas that I'm not familiar with, and the food that comes from them. Like, so, I think, where would I go? I think I would love to look at sort of, like Pacific Islands, specifically in the like Galapagos, like that whole area, because it's so, it's so fish driven, it's so healthy. There's so many things that, that they have naturally that we've never heard of, obviously. And so I think sort of like a small Pacific Island style food is probably the next thing that I would like to look into.
Nice.
And I had not thought about that till now. So thank you.
Awesome.
Now
Well,
I
you're
have
welcome.
something to do. I have
There
homework.
you go. And Vanessa says, I'm continually reminded what an incredible person Amy is. Yeah, it's
Oh,
been incredible getting to talk to you here. I wish we had more time. And when you put out your next book, you need to come and see me so we can sit down and talk about cooking and your book and really dissect it and really get into it. And I'm sure we'll have nice conversations in October when we see each other as well. But Amy, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for being on our show and being with us today. I really appreciate it.
thank you so much. And thanks for all the love, everybody. I love you guys.
All right, so we're gonna come back and we'll bring on Madeline Dale here in a moment. But right now, something very important that we're going to be presenting for you. One of the sponsors of Multiverse is Falstaff Books, and they're putting out an anthology that I think needs to get funded because I grew up. Edgar Allan Poe is like one of the whole reasons I write, and so this just sings to my heart. And I've already contributed. I can't contribute every penny to this. So some people have to help me out and put some money behind it. All right, people. So enjoy it. And here's a little preview of that. And then we'll be back with Madeline. Thank you, Amy, so much.
Thanks.
Falstaff Books is excited to present Nevermore, an anthology of short stories based on the masterpieces of the one and only Edgar Allan Poe. Are you ready for a spine-tingling descent into the depths of darkness? Nevermore includes 18 original stories written by talented contemporary authors who have been inspired by Poe's eerie Gothic style. From the interstellar terror of James Tuck's The Valley of Unrest and the mechanical shivers of Day al-Muhammad's The Clock Struck 13, to the dark revenge of Misty Massey's The Cask of Amarillo, the monstrous mystery of Kat Richardson's The Purloining Peacock, and so much more. Each story captures the essence of Poe's work while offering a unique twist on his themes of horror, suspense, and the macabre. Let our amazing authors take you on a twisted journey, exploring Poe's haunting themes in unique ways. Experience the thrill of Poe's tales like never before. Choose your pledge level today and let the thrills begin.
Yes, so everybody go do that. The link is in the description, so please contribute and let's get this thing funded. And now I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming somebody most of you who are on this channel are very familiar with, the one and only Madeline Dale. I gave a little bit of an intro. It was I did it vaguely on purpose. A lot of people already know you, but give everybody who's out there who doesn't know you some insight into who you are and what you do a little bit for us.
All right. So thanks for having me on, Joe. I appreciate getting to be on a show that's out of the norm for us. So guys, as Joe mentioned earlier, I write fantasy, romance, kind of like a mixed genre of stuff. I've been slowly broadening my creative, tentacles, skills, whatever you want to call it, because I'm podcasting, I interview, I have a blog, and sometimes I kind of think I am living a crazy life because now I'm homeschooling my child and all this other crazy stuff. But yeah, you can find all of my stuff at my website, thechaptergoddess.com. And I actually remembered to grab some books to show you guys. Nice. I have Black Flames, Blue Flames, Releasing Her Power within the Ember series, which is kind of more on the steamy side. This is more like YA, the Phase Shifter series. All of that can be found on my website. So yeah.
And Living Flames is coming soon. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. But you got to experience Multiverse for the first time last year. So this is always great. I love to get this perspective. What was it about Multiverse that really you gravitated toward? What did you enjoy the most about it?
I really liked the community. Like, everybody was very kind of like they chatted easily. They bonded easy with each other. They weren't afraid to talk to you instead of being like, oh, this is a famous author, like, oh my God, kind of thing. It's like they're just people. Like we're just having conversations kind of thing and hanging out with everybody, because I wasn't there as a guest or anything last year. I was just there for the experience. So I really liked getting that perspective and getting to chat with everybody and meet everybody and just not be like, I don't know, starstruck, I guess would be the word for that. So, because it was a lot of fun. And it definitely, for being a bigger con, was a great con for a first time experience.
Nice. You got to experience something that I've already talked about on this show in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
And when I presented it the first time, I'm about to present it again. It was a moment that I'll never forget. It's probably the funniest moment I've ever experienced at a con. Madeline was literally sitting right next to me when this happened, everybody. We were in a meet group, and this came about.
This is going to go on continual after dark.
That was an epic experience for sure, because I was just like, is this really happening right now? And I think
you were filming. Hartness was filming right across from you. It was very funny.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure I put that up on my TikTok like later, because that was fun. Just the fact that everybody could get together and act like silly kids.
Yeah.
At a big con like that just, I feel like that speaks volumes, honestly.
It was so funny too, because we were having I don't remember the conversation exactly, but it was a little bit of a more serious note conversation. And then Adam, out of the corner of his eye, saw the accident. AJ saw the pony, and it just came together perfectly.
Yes.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
Vanessa says, "Hi, I heard about your jesting battle," but I hadn't seen them. That
It
wasn't
was
me. That was Adam Stemple, actually. So
yeah, Joe and I were just chilling, like,
yeah, we were sitting right next to each other. It was very funny.
It was.
But yeah, something about Multiverse that you're going to hopefully experience this year is vending, and you've done some vending now through some other cons. You hadn't done any vending prior to going to Multiverse. Mm-hmm. Now that you've done some vending, and you went through the vending hall last year, you saw the Author's Alley, and yeah, it was Adam. Yes. But I'm curious, have you thought about your strategy? Did you kind of observe what was going on at Multiverse? Do you feel like you've got a pretty good idea of what you're going to do when you're there?
It's definitely going to be very busy, because not only do I plan to be vending, I'm going to be sitting on panels and just trying to get in the conversations wherever I can. But I do have an idea. So after my first experience at vending, I got a couple extra things. Like I've got a banner now, which if you're in my Facebook group, you've got to see, or on my Facebook. I may have shared it in both places. I can't remember.
It has a sneak preview, everybody.
It does. It has that sneak preview. And I'm, knock on wood, going to hopefully have that book available for at least pre-order by then. But yeah,
that's exciting. You didn't tell me that. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's what I said. Knock on wood. It's still in the oven baking, so to speak. But yeah, it gave me a new perspective on like how to go about things, how to talk to people about books, how to reach out to people. Like, I'm not going to do the creepy stare at you people. Like, oh, if they make eye contact, talk to them. Like, I don't like people that do that to me, but just like bring them in with a general conversation. Like, how's the con going? Like, you guys check this out yet? What do you like to read? Like, watched any good shows on Netflix? Just like regular conversation to bring people in and just have some fun looking pieces on my booth, because swag is always good. I mean, having all the free swag out there definitely draws people in, but I don't like to put the stuff out there that's just like kind of gets tossed to the side when you come home. Like, I want stuff that these people are going to use every day that's going to see my name on it. And yeah, there you go. So that's kind of one of my strategies going in. And I feel like the banner is really going to help. But I know that room is going to stay busy because it was busy at the con last year. So yeah, I just got to be able to not fall asleep and be ready to talk for at least 12 hours.
Now, you also you attended some panels last year. Is there a panel that you gravitated towards? Was there something that you really enjoyed that you kind of want to go, if it's available again, I would love to do that?
Oh, that's a tough one, Joe, because there were so many. Like, it was hard picking ones to go to. I mean, I went to a lot of the marketing ones because I feel like marketing is not one of my strongest suits, and definitely the short story stuff because I've been slowly improving there. But anything related to like fantasy, maybe like high fantasy and the marketing stuff is like right up my alley. And then like podcast or maybe like interviews, continuing learning, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you could definitely give some insight to the panel that you watched with myself, Jim, and Bob on. So, that
was a good panel.
No, that was a really good panel. Yeah, absolutely. You're coming from far away. I mean, far enough. For people who don't know, Madeline's from Oklahoma, and so traveling from Oklahoma to Atlanta to get there. And what piece of advice would you have for somebody who's looking at that and thinking about, going across country to this? Do you feel like there is a worth to that? Do you feel like, the opportunity is there and it's just one of those things you have to do once? How do you feel about that?
I definitely think this is one of those cons that is worth going to across country because there are so many people, so many authors, and 100% worth it. Yeah, I was exhausted when I got back, but I had so much information, so much to process that it was just like, it changed my entire view on how I view my writing, how I view like my marketing strategies and everything. And it's like, it just kicked me into another gear when I got back. And like, even though I ended up like, because of the way like my parents were keeping my son, we ended up taking 2 flights out and got to experience somebody getting officially kicked off the plane for the first time. Like, that was entertaining. Like, literally we were about to hit the air and they paused the brakes and took us back in to kick this person off. But like, it's totally worth it. Like, this is one of the cons. People are so inviting and easy to talk to. There's so many different experiences, so many opportunities to go to panels and listen and learn different things. Like I said, it was hard to choose what panels to go to because some of them overlapped and I was like, I can't go to all of these. Like, oh. So I highly recommend it. And I'm planning to take all of my stuff via plane again to head down there and, knock on wood, not get his car sick going from the airport to the hotel. So
yeah, Atlanta traffic is one thing you have to battle. You just have to grit and bear it. It's just part of the experience a little bit. But did you enjoy the interactiveness of the paneling? Because one thing that I've always thought about Multiverse that's a lot different than any con I've been to is that the panels feel more like it's a conversation of a circle of people just sitting around talking as opposed to being lectured at they do have the learn track and everything like that. But even those, there's a lot of interaction. Did you feel that? Did you enjoy that aspect of it?
Oh yeah, I felt like I was doing a show with you guys on This Week in Indies. It was nice, and that's not what I expected, honestly. So I found myself able to relax more than I thought I would with those.
Nice. All right, let's talk about you and your journey and where you're going, because you've put out a lot of stuff in the last year and a half, and you have more to come. Ember's continuing her journey into hell and becoming the person that she needs to be, or the deity that she needs to become. I hope I'm not spoiling too much for everybody out there, but basically Ember is, the princess of hell. I mean, we're about to we're about to experience all that, and it goes throughout the entire series. And so, I've been curious about where Ember comes from, because you started her. We've talked about this before, how you started her as a young teen in this journey. So where did Ember come from? Was it an experience you had, something that you wanted to share about being a teenager? Was it you just thought that was the best place to start for her? How did you develop Ember?
Well, I was inspired a lot from Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series. That's kind of where the age idea came from. And a lot of stuff from that world inspired me to come up with like my own. With Ember, some of the emotions and stuff she has to work through is kind of a different form of something I've gone through in the past. I mean, obviously hers is on a whole other level than what I experienced, like taken up like 10 notches or so.
Yeah.
But it just...
Yeah, if you're going to tell me you're the princess of hell right now, we're going to...
No. That'd be pretty cool though, because Ember's got some pretty badass powers. But no, she just kind of was an inspiration from that. And the character for the first manuscript I'd ever written that is probably not ever going to get published, a little bit of that character too. Just tying all this together and weaving it in, and that's where she came from. Now her attitude, like her sassiness and stuff, I don't even know where that came from. It just happened. So
yes. Well, I mean, I could probably give some insight into that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that alone. We'll just let that lie. Yeah, I think you've already finished the third book, right? You're almost there.
Getting there. It's close enough.
And you already have thoughts about what's next and what the journey you're about to go on. And I mean, we've also talked about this before a little bit, but kind of are now that you're getting more experience, you're putting out stories on anthologies and you're writing more. Do you feel like there is a little bit more to the story than you originally thought there was? And are you feeling like the journey's just not as over as you might have thought it was from the beginning?
Yes. And I don't like it because I was like super set on this third book being the end. And I'm like, oh no. And I just, as I was sitting working on something the other day, which was not that manuscript, was just like, man, is this really going to intrude right now? Like, I got to finish this first. Like, no, it's supposed to only be 3. Like, oh. And part of that, I will admit, part of that I'm going to blame on David Green, because I've been reading Beyond 100 Seas, and something like, I came across something and I was like, oh, this kind of idea, which was like, no. So, yeah.
You've also taken quite a journey with us here at Go Indie Now. And so talk a little bit about that experience for you and what that's done for you as a writer, as a creative. You don't need to toot my horn or toot Go Indie Now's horn. I'm just saying I want some real insight from you about what it feels, how it's helped you in your journey.
Well, I definitely have grown a lot since that very first time that you guys had me on the show. I have come out of my shell a lot. I've picked up tips and tricks. You've been an excellent mentor on like getting my interview podcast stuff off the ground. Like, just so much. Go Indie Now has given me so much knowledge and skills and experience, and I've met so many amazing people. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's a part of my writing now. Thanks to you guys. Like, you guys are all in my writing, and I'm slowly plugging you guys into stories too now. So it's just, I've grown a lot as an author, as a person, just doing all of this stuff with you guys. So, and it's been awesome because I've learned more about myself too along the way.
Yeah, you've really grown into this role, and writing wise, I think there's something very you it was very apparent you were born to do that, and it's very apparent that you I mean, you have incredibly natural gifted talent, but it's really interesting reading from the first book to now, and even the little bit I've dabbled with the Phase Shifter series. You are it's almost as if you're experiencing what Ember is experiencing in a lot of ways. And do you feel that too? Do you feel like that's kind of how it's gone a little bit, and you're mirroring that a little bit in your writing?
Yeah, a little bit, because a few of her scenes actually made me stop and question things that were happening in my life at the time. And it was like, holy crap, wait a second, like back up. Is this happening right now? Like, what? Okay. Like, and it made me pause, and I'd have to work through how the best way to react to her situation and how I want her to react versus like what's going on in real life. It was kind of an eye opener for some things. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. But I've also started journaling more too, which has kind of played in
Nice.
part into that. And it's just like, yeah, opens up a whole other kind of like brainwave in a way.
All right. So, what advice would you give someone who has a problem, or has not a problem? That's probably a bad way to say it, but has issues with putting something steamy into their book, and yet
Maybe.
needs to.
Oh, as JD drops this comment down there. Yeah. So the steamy stuff, I will be honest.
I do too, JD. I have a whole new appreciation for showers.
I didn't get into reading the steamy stuff until
And gyms.
maybe college. I've always been drawn to romance and absolutely 100% fantasy, but it's just, I don't know. Like, it comes so naturally. It's crazy. As I write it, actually just flows. Like, some of those scenes are a lot easier to write than like a casual conversation, for sure. Like, I'm really good at getting those scenes and fight scenes out for some reason. And it's just the steamy stuff. I had to kind of slowly ease into it because I had to work through a lot of fear and a lot of like, what would people think? What are people going to think? Kind of stuff, that stuff. I had to work through it. And as Josh Penaloresco says, I had to quit giving a fuck. So, and getting to that point was really hard, but I felt like my writing really reached a whole other level and is better because I hit that point.
Nice. Awesome. I want to talk so much about this series because it's one of my favorites, but I'm trying to avoid spoiling it for people. I really think everybody should go check out the Ember series for sure. It's really amazing. It's beautifully crafted, and it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot to it, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah, and I've talked to you so much too. I'm trying to think of questions that we haven't explored. So in this writing journey and where you are now, have you thought about what's next? Have you ventured into what you're going to do post Ember? Have you thought about where you want to go? Is it going to be different than the path you might have thought of maybe even a year ago?
Well, the entire path I'm on now is not something I would have ever imagined being on a year ago. Yeah. And honestly, I do have some stuff already lined up. I've kind of been dabbling on it a little bit.
Is it a different genre, or are you sticking with what you've been successful with?
It's pretty much kind of the same. Well, it's not. Well, okay, it's not so much dark like the Ember series. It's going to be a little bit lighter, but it's still going to be on the steamy side because I've got this outline already written up for a story involving a genie. So, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a couple other things I've already written out. And my brain does not stop because I've also been working on this idea that I totally like voiced out driving down the road. So I used oh gosh, why can't I think of the word? Basically, I just held my phone up to my mouth while I was driving and just talked and like put most of that out, and it's just there. So yeah.
I love that. So yeah.
I mean,
steamy genies and
yeah,
jeans.
there's
Oh,
gonna be like a whole like life gap that she's been trapped in her bottle. And then yes, dictation. Vanessa got it for me. I could not get the word for some reason.
I was wondering what you were trying to do. I didn't know you were searching for the word. Sorry.
You're good. No, I was just like, why can't I not think of this word? But yeah, I dictated it out as I was driving back from Colorado, part of a story, and like it's just yeah. But the genie is going to have a big, huge gap where she's trapped for a while and then comes into present day world, and it's going to be like a huge culture shock, kind of like the Captain America waking up like years later scenario.
Nice. Well, we'll look forward to that, as we will look forward to seeing you in October and to hanging out and doing all that with us too. I really appreciate you coming on and joining us and being a part of this. It's amazing to have you a part of this, and thank you for all you do for us here at Go Indie Now, and thank you for the wonderful books that you put out. So
no problem, and thank you for having me also, and thank you for letting me be like not going anywhere, because like I said the other day, you guys are stuck with me. So
nice. Awesome. All right, so everybody, in honor of the Kitchen Witch, I did this for the very first show that we did, but I'm going to play it again because I think it gives a little insight into what is so special and magical about the Con Suite and why Multiverse is such a unique place that you need to be a part of. So here's a little something about the Con Suite, and then I'll be back to wrap everything up and say goodnight.
And now, another reason why, among many, you should be attending Multiverse. Reason 1001. The Con Suite. At Multiverse, they believe in serving up real food and good times all weekend long. It's located in the Presidential Suite at the Westin. The Multiverse Con Suite is a place where you can get tasty meals if you don't want to leave the con, as well as in between light meals, snacks, and drinks, all free with your Multiverse membership. Con Suite serves meals at the times listed on the website and keeps a grab-to-go snacks and drinks during all open hours to feed all of you. The awesome Amy Anderchuk, better known as the Kitchen Witch, is the mastermind behind all of the incredible meals that you get. What are you waiting for? Join us today. Go to multiversecon.org and register to become a member of the Multiverse.
Yes, and so I'm gonna go eat right now because now I'm hungry after talking so much about food. And no, but really, I say it every week. I'll continue to say it every single week. I'm so fortunate and lucky to be bringing you such a great insight to all of these wonderful people who are involved with this incredible convention. And thank you to Vanessa, Allison, and Jesse for having me do this each and every week. I'm really excited to bring you another one next week. We've got another great show for you. Some more insight into some of the things that really make this place and this environment and this con very, very special to me and special to those who get involved with it. And it could be special to you too. You just got to come and experience it for yourself. So what are you waiting for? Please come and do that. We would love to have you. And just remember that it's always time to go indie now. And with that, we'll say good night. Good night, everybody.